Hello, everyone. Today I'll be speaking to you about the Pomo peoples of the California Central Coast. The Pomo lands are located in present-day Lake, Mendocino, and northern Sonoma counties. Some of those cities include Fort Bragg, the South Russian River watershed area, Clear Lake, Ukiah, Point Arena, Lakeport, Santa Rosa, and Sebastopol. Some of you may have traveled in that area, and lo and behold, you were in Pomo region. This landscape was varied and included lush valleys, forest areas, and a large coastal swath as well. So on the image to the right, you'll see the larger portion of California and the varied tribal regions. The Pomo area is outlined in red, and you can see that it's just north of Marin. So anyone familiar with the Bay Area, you could have potentially crossed into some of the Pomo territory. The image to the left goes in depth in detail about kind of more of these specific areas within the Pomo territory and the different cultural and tribal boundaries as well. So the resources in this land, they had a lot of acorn producing trees. They had manzanita, buckeye, bay, tarweed, and miner's lettuce as well. A lot of oak acorns were used primarily in native California diet, and a lot of their baskets today show that acorn mush and the winnowing and harvesting of acorns was a huge sustenance source for them, along with game. So there was a lot of wooded areas in the region. So you think deer, California has a lot of deer still today. And the Clear Lake region, which also falls within the Pomo lands, they had waterfowl, fish. On the coast, they had other fish as well, clams and abalone. Seaweed was also harvested by the Pomo. And in the Russian River area, they had salmon spawning yearly as well. The Pomo basketry is some of the world-renowned Native American art. All over the world, people know of Pomo basketry as some of the most beautiful baskets and pieces of artwork. And in their collections of basketry, they do have hunting baskets used for fishing and other wild game. So in terms of food sources, there's an image on the right of a Pomo woman. She is pounding acorns into a soft powder. So she's using a mortar hopper, which is a basket that has been specifically woven to go on top of a mortar, which is a kind of carved, smooth, bowl-like stone. And this would be very similar to modern day mortar and pestles. So she's holding the pestle and she's pounding the acorns against the mortar, and the mortar hopper is used to keep all of the debris and everything that she is crushing in and contained so that she doesn't lose any of her food. And you can see other various cooking baskets and I believe a winnowing basket around her. On the left, these are the oak trees that were specifically populous in the Pomo region. It's the coast live oak. So this oak would have provided the Pomo with their primary acorn resources. So a little more about the Pomo peoples themselves. The Pomo area was the densest populated area in Native America, period. There are very little other noted areas that are as densely populated as the Pomo. They had roughly 75 small nations speaking 7 distinct different languages. Though rooted in the same common Native California root language, they were all different. And each tribe was separated by language, but they were united under their basketry and their lifestyle. Being in the same land, they had a very similar way of living. And as I mentioned before, their basketry is world renowned, and it genuinely is unparalleled. So throughout the Pomo history, as well as many other Native Californian tribes, they definitely had conflicts with colonists. So contact began in 1810 when Russian sea otter hunters traveled into the region. They established Fort Ross, and that started their interaction with the Pomo peoples. By 1823, two missions had been established, Mission San Rafael and Sonoma, and they began affecting the Pomo region as well. And as we've learned throughout this course, they began attempting to make contact with the native peoples of California and, of course, trying to convert them in various ways and mistreat them as well. As the contact increased, they were ravaged by plagues, unfortunately. In 1833, cholera and malaria broke out. And again, in 1837, smallpox also was an epidemic. So in 1810, pre-contact, there was an estimated number of 20,000 Pomo people in the region, but by 1850, that population had dwindled down to 5,000. This is from activity with aggressive colonists, the mission activity, and then again, when missions became ranches, ranches would kidnap children off of Pomo lands and have them work onto the ranches, and thus depriving the Pomo peoples of, their inheritance, other Pomos to carry out the traditions, and of course the epidemics over the years. So onto Pomo basketry. The Pomo are known for their baskets. I believe Kroeber said that he has never encountered any other native California group that has the most exquisite basketry as the Pomo do. And they not only specialized in coiled basketry, but they also mastered twined basketry as well. So there is a distinct difference between the two types of basketry, and the Pomo have excelled in both. And yes, the materials in the area, in the Pomo region, do contribute to that. They had a wide variety of grasses, trees to choose from in terms of their materials. They also use tule. So there's some grasslands, some wetlands in, thinking about north of Marin. They do have some tule as well, but primarily they use bulrush root and redbud, as well as a different plant for their background weft material. So the types of baskets that you can find within the Pomo collections can indicate lifestyle. So different baskets were used for different things, such as cooking baskets. You had hunting baskets, and also gift baskets, divorce baskets, and generally everything. Basketry was the most prominent technology in native California because, of course, we didn't get hot enough that you could make pottery, but basketry was used in everyday life, in every aspect of everyday life. And one very distinct feature of Pomo basketry is that there is usually a dowel in the design. And this can possibly link us to a religious belief, although it is commonly said that the Pomo had shamans within tribes and generally polytheistic, but the dowel specifically to weavers was a symbol of the spider woman. And the dowel was a break in the design created and put in specifically to let the spider woman out once you finish a basket, because it was believed that if she was unable to exit the basket, the weaver would be plagued with blindness and illness. So here's an example. You can see an image of some of the excellent Pomo basketry. This particular basket has dual-sided design, so that's also indicative of a Pomo design, but the feathers in particular, those are quail feathers, and quail, they actually made special baskets to capture quail. They were a open twined basket that was attached to a tree around their nests so that they could capture the quail once it had exited its nest so that they can harvest the feathers for basketry. So some types of Pomo baskets include mortar hoppers, as we saw earlier in the slide, the woman using the mortar hopper to ground her acorns. Burden baskets. Burden baskets were attached to the back. So as you are harvesting acorns or other plants, you would toss your harvest into the burden basket on your back. Fishing baskets. These were used. They were submerged into rivers. They were also just primarily made by men in their hunting and gathering. Woodpecker traps, as I mentioned. Seed beaters. These are large spoon-like baskets. They're used to kind of tap seeds off of branches and bushes in harvesting. Cooking baskets, winnowing baskets, and small game traps. Also decorative and ritual baskets as well. So here are some more prime examples of beautiful Pomo baskets. The basket on the left is a twined basket, and the basket on the right is a coiled basket. So just for some explanation, a twined basket, if you would like to think about the baskets that we see today, maybe you have one in your home, it's most likely a twined basket where it has the support rods up the sides going from bottom to top, and then siding kind of woven between them. That's kind of what we all traditionally think about as a basket, so that would be considered twined. A coiled basket, however, is its support rods are usually sometimes 3-rod or bundled and formed into a circle. So it kind of like a rope. If you're putting a rope down and winding it around itself. And these rods then are woven together by the weft material into the shape that the weaver would like. So the basket on the right is coiled, and you can see that it also has those quail feathers decorating it. More baskets, of course. The basket on the left is a twined basket with quail feathers, and you can tell just the quality and just the amazing attention to detail. The Pomo baskets were highly sought after in the early 20th century, so much that they were the subject of curiosity cases, and they're in museums all across the world. The photo on the right is also a twine basket. That's a larger basket, so that's more of it does not have a flat bottom, so it may not have been a cooking basket, but possibly a storage basket. It also doesn't look particularly used, so it also could have been made and then purchased. I personally work with the C. Hart Merriam collection at UC Davis, and a lot of the baskets there are used, but Merriam also, every basket was purchased or equally traded for, and some baskets he had purchased as the weaver was completing it, so it didn't get a chance to be used yet. So that could possibly be the case for this basket as well. Both of these baskets are twined. More baskets. I love these baskets. I think they're absolutely amazing. On both of these baskets, however, yes, they have examples of quail feathers adorning them, but if you look closely, you can also see shell beads. So the Pomo, they were on the coast, so being in the coastal region, they were able to trade and utilize shell beads, and they adorned a lot of their baskets with these shell beads. Some actually, there's some speculation going around as of right now as to where the shell bead originated in California. Some say that it's the Channel Islands, but there's a new theory going around that kind of conflicts that a little bit. But regardless, the Pomo definitely put the shell beads into their baskets for beautiful use. More baskets. I love their use of quail feathers. It's absolutely unparalleled. So the basket on the left is, this particular basket, I believe, is in the UC Berkeley Museum of Anthropology, and that one is covered in, you can see the beads as well as the quail feathers. The basket on the right is part of the C. Hart Merriam collection that I do work with, and that's a coiled basket as well. So the Pomo today, the Pomo numbers have risen in the 20th century. There's been a lot of effort over the years to preserve their way of life, and also, as I mentioned, in the 20th century, the very, very increased interest in their baskets as an artistic form and as a collectible also contributed to their survival. In terms of their culture, there are many efforts to preserve it. And today there are 14 federally recognized Pomo groups, and the basketry is still world renowned and one of the defining features of the Pomo.